Welcome to Global Tax Talk. I'm Will Morris, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Carlos Protto, who is the Director of International Tax Relations at the Argentine Ministry of Economy. Carlos, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Great to be here. So let me ask you a couple of questions. And the first relates to Latin America, which obviously has a wide variety of tax systems, but currently only two countries in Latin America are members of the OECD, Chile and Colombia. But Argentina has recently recommitted to OECD membership, which was first floated in 2022. How do you see organizations such as the OECD, which obviously you're very closely involved with, but also the UN, which you are equally closely involved with? And how do you see those shaping Argentina and indeed the broader tax landscape going forward?
Thank you very much for that question, Will. In fact, Latin America is engaging a little bit more in international tax discussions. So international organizations have always been there for developing countries, particularly those from Latin America, but the level of engagement is increasing little by little. In the case of Argentina, we have a very long experience with the Committee on Fiscal Affairs at the OECD. So we were observers, then participants, and then we became associates. So we are still equal footing with other OECD members on any tax issues. Right. But now this new process of accession tries to keep us even closer. So we are engaged in all and committed in all international tax issues. And this is a very interesting learning experience for us. So we are able to pick up the recommendations issued by the Committee on Fiscal Affairs, the OECD, and that is expected to have an overall improvement in our tax systems. And the idea is to be harmonized to reduce any anomaly and to become much more cooperative, which is a gain-gain situation.
And what about the United Nations? How is the impact there?
Argentina is also part of the United Nations, one of the 198 members, but the UN Tax Committee has only 25 members. Not necessarily Argentina has been there for every membership, but now we are for the second time in the last 8 years, and we were engaged. So even though participation is in a personal level, we are not representing our countries, we are trying to send to the committee the views of developing countries, the region, Latin America, and particularly of Argentina. So we are trying to have our system to be somehow represented in the standards the committee develops, and the other way around. We are trying to also integrate in our tax system standards issued by the committee at the UN level as well. Right. But now the UN is transforming. There is a new ambition to create an intergovernmental body where all 198 countries will be represented, and that new body will be creating new standards that will be binding to states. So we will move from a recommendation or soft law type of new body that will establish new rules that will be binding all states, which is something very ambitious, and it is still ongoing. So we don't know how it will end up and at what time countries will be sitting around the table in order to decide new rules.
Changing to back to the OECD and, of course, to our favorite topic of Pillar 2, which we've been talking a lot about recently. There is actually, at the moment, no country in Latin America which has legislated for Pillar 2. Do you think Pillar 2 potentially holds advantages for the region? And if you had one magic wish to make Pillar 2 improve, what would it be?
As you said, Pillar 2 has not been already instrumented in Latin America, but I think this is a good opportunity for developing countries or Latin American countries to review their tax incentives because they will be no longer serving the purpose. So any tax expenditure will be not necessarily favoring any investment or activity in the developing country itself, because there will be an extra tax to be paid elsewhere. So in that case, all developing countries should examine how to modify their tax incentives in order to still be appealing to investment, but also to allow the jurisdictions to collect some money, which is very valid to mobilize resources and try to achieve those sustainable development goals. So I think this is the opportunity for those countries to revisit that and probably remove any inefficient tax expenditure.
So moving from Pillar 2 to Pillar 1, let's talk a little about digital taxation. And I understand that Argentina has prepared, but not yet published, a withholding tax proposal for digital service providers, should Amount A actually not come into effect. So I was just wondering if you could give us some idea of what the benefits of that might be, what the benefits might be for the region of Pillar 1, should Pillar 1 actually occur. And if you could just talk a little about what this withholding tax provision might look like and how business needs to prepare for that.
Interesting question, Will. Let me come back to the history of this.
Mm-hmm.
So when Action 1 of the BEPS project gave no answer to address the tax challenges of the digitalization of the economy, there was a requirement by the G20 to start working on that again.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, all G20 countries like Argentina committed to stand still and not to legislate on any digital tax in order to not disturb the progress on a global solution. So since then, we have postponed the launch of our withholding tax on digital services and start working on what is now Pillar 1. Mm-hmm. So Pillar 1 is expected to harmonize the tax system, to stabilize it, but it is not necessarily raising revenues, particularly in small jurisdictions or small markets. So the impact for Latin America, if Amount A is implemented, won't be dramatical. So countries won't be collecting that much taxes, but that will be with the aim of stabilizing the tax system and reduce tax competition. Mm-hmm. So in the event Amount A is not implemented, I think there will be spontaneous emissions or issuance of tax laws introducing withholding taxes on a digital service tax, which will be a little bit complex for business to absorb it, because those digital service taxes won't be capturing a portion of the profits, but maybe more than profits. So there will be excessive taxation that couldn't be credited back home if their domestic tax law allow for that foreign tax credit to be granted. That depends on every single jurisdiction. But yes, that would be a very catastrophic scenario if Amount A is not implemented at the end of this year.
Good. Let's keep hoping. Carlos, thank you very much for joining us. These have been great insights, and we'll hope to get you back again on Global Tax Talk. And thank you for joining us, and come back again so that you stay global tax ready.